Dudes and dudettes, how are you guys? This is Chazzy and welcome back to What's the Damage? The good old W to the question mark here on my channel. The segment on this channel where I can unleash all of my inner rage and sadness and anger and sorrow, all of the negative emotions that come with being a human being in today's day and age, especially because humanity kind of sucks, doesn't it? We are really truly a terrible species. We are a stain on this planet's ecosystem, especially when it comes to damaging nature. Mother Nature hates us so much, it's not even funny, man. And as you're going to see in today's video, there is justification for her hatred, right? Because today I'm going to be talking about one of the most tragic environmental disasters that human beings have produced in our lifetime, at least in my opinion, right? And in case you guys aren't aware, I'm going to be covering the very tragic story of Koh Phi Phi Lee, I hope I pronounced that correctly, which is an island on the Phi Phi archipelago in the Ottoman Sea, located in the Krabi province of Thailand, right? And it's actually part of the, let's see here, the Hat Noforat Thara Koh Phi Phi National Park. Oh boy, ain't that a mouthful, baby. I really hope I pronounced it correctly though, because I probably butchered that in like 11 different languages. I hope that anybody who speaks Thai, I'm sorry, okay? That was probably very cringy, but I'm trying my best here. Okay, I'm a native English speaker, alright? Now, this island here, Koh Phi Phi Lee, right? It's actually just 2 square kilometers, or for you Americans out there, 0.77 square miles in area, so it's not a very big place, right? And it's actually only the second largest island of the archipelago itself, with the largest being Koh Phi Phi Don, right? Now, this island here, Koh Phi Phi Lee, consists of a ring of steep limestone hills surrounding 2 other shallow bays, which is Maya Bay and Lo Sama, right? Now, Maya Bay in particular is the one that I'm going to focus on for today's video, and during low tide, it actually can't be accessed directly via boat, You actually have to, because of the shallow waters in the coral, right? You actually have to take your boat and anchor it in the much deeper Lo Sama, right? You have to kind of go through this little hiking trail of sorts, go through this little short section of rocks and jungle to reach Maya Bay itself. But when you actually get there, it's such a pristine, idyllic like paradise, the water is crystal clear, you got the roaming hills, the sand is so clean and, white and whatever color sand wants to be in a place like this, There's also this really large shallow fjord-like inlet called Pile, right? And there's a little coral reef at the entrance, right there in Pile, which makes you feel like you're in the Great Barrier Reef or something. The water is always like so clear, right? It's nice to see the little fishies swimming around and stuff. It's literally like heaven on earth, right? And at night you can actually see bioluminescent plankton, right? Maya Bay houses these, so it looks really good, And with this description here, you might think, wow, it looks so parasitic. That's not a word. Parasitic. Okay, I'm just making stuff up. It looks like a paradise. Okay, it's very, very nice, very, very cool. So I believe that this place here, before the disaster that we're going to talk about, could have honestly been in my top 10 list of the most beautiful places in the world, right? Let's take a look at some photos here of Maya Bay as it used to be. It really is very sad to talk about this next part, because those photos that you guys just saw, oh boy, let's just say it didn't stay that way for very long, right? You guys might remember a certain little movie called The Beach that was released back in the year 2000, starring Leonardo DiCaprio, right? And it was produced by 20th Century Fox. And 20th Century Fox actually wanted to shoot on location here in Thailand. So when they went to this beach, right, they saw that it looked really nice, but they wanted to make a few changes just to kind of give it a more paradise-like feeling. So they bulldozed the area, then they landscaped it a little bit, They altered some sand dunes here and there, cleared some coconut trees and grass to widen the beach a little bit, And there were even some things that were put in digitally later to make it look better, and I just can't help think, but why didn't they just alter everything digitally and not do what they actually did, right? So now, to their credit, they did remove about 5 tons of garbage left behind by tourists at that point, but it was still very bad because they essentially caused a lot of damage to the ecosystem that at that point the government feared to be permanent. The Thai government actually took them to court and everything. There was a lawsuit and it was a crazy situation. They even tried to They even tried to fund a restoration attempt, 20th Century Fox, but the government just wasn't having it, you know? So it was really hard to reconstruct the beach to its natural site, right? But the problem is that the movie was very popular, and over the years, more and more tourists started to go there because of the movie itself, you know? They saw that the beach was very beautiful, the island setting, so they wanted to see it for themselves. And the tourists, the numbers started to climb more and more as the years went on. So to give you guys an idea, by 2016, and this was the low season of 2016, there were approximately 5,000 tourists going to this island every single day, anchoring about 200 boats a day to Maya Bay. And this caused a lot of damage to the environment, man. You know, it was crazy. And like, the problem is that this spot here, this beach, has only 14 bathrooms. Now, citation needed for this one here, but 5,000 people a day in 14 bathrooms, I don't think a lot of them were doing their business in the bathrooms, okay? I'm pretty sure a lot of these people were going to the bathroom in the water, and some of them even on the sand, no, in the grass, near the trees. I'm just saying that I don't think all of these people were using these dang bathrooms, okay? I shudder just thinking about it. I mean, it's freaking crazy, right? But it's still so sad. Now, remember guys, we're talking about a beach that's only 250 meters long and 15 meters wide. So 5,000 people is a lot for that small surface area. So there was a lot of overcrowding, right? Now, the problem here, even though the tourists were bringing 1.6 million baht a day, you know, to the park, the Thai currency, it still wasn't worth it because they were slowly causing more and more damage to the environment, you know. There was no carrying capacity for this many people. And at one point, marine biologists even did a survey that estimated that around 80% of the coral reefs were destroyed. Completely destroyed due to boat traffic and pollution, right? And marine life was essentially non-existent as a result of this. And the beach was slowly starting to become more and more unrecognizable. People were littering, they were throwing their garbage all over the place in the water, in the sand, right? So now sea life was starting to become very non-rampant. So it was crazy. It started to become kind of like a huge dump, basically, right? This was very sad. And even though they tried to limit the day, that they tried to eventually limit the number of visitors, but it still did not really help too much, right? Because at one point, at one very sad, tragic point, the damage was already done. And there was a period in time where Maya Bay looked like this. If you don't find this sad and tragic, you honestly don't have a heart, or you just don't care about nature itself, you know? You don't care about nature at all, which is like, it's the air that we breathe, man, you know? We need nature to be okay so we can be okay, right? And this kind of overpollution and like this senseless nature of people is just honestly aggravating to me, you know? And it was actually estimated that from between October of 2015 and May of 2016, about 1.2 million tourists had visited Maya Bay, give or take a few, you know? 77% of these tourists were foreigners. So a lot of them weren't even from the Thai area itself, you know? They came from other countries, right? Because they saw the movie, they wanted to go with their friends. But this lack of awareness by people in general is very aggravating to me. It's disgusting, honestly, right? It's really hard. It was really hard for me to get those photos, you know, on my research to put here in this video. It's really tough to look at this, you know? Now, in 2018, the park was officially closed off to the public, right? Permanently up until that point, so they could try some restoration efforts, you know? There was so much environmental damage that it was crazy, man. And in that same year, the Marine National Park Operations Center 2 that was based in Trang, they tried to begin work on this coral rehabilitation program to bring back the coral reefs, you know, try to kind of let the ecosystem heal a little bit with the absence of people in general, right? There were also some local non-governmental organizations like Reef Guardian Thailand who also lent their hands in the restoration effort, you know. They tried to. You know, there was also, just to name a few others, right? There was the Thai Department of National Parks, the Wildlife and Plant Conservation, right? They tried to bring back the plant life, you know, the flora of the area, right? And it was really complicated because there was so much damage that was done that it's very hard. It was so crazy that it's kind of like you breaking all of your bones in your body at the same time. You're gonna need a lot of time to heal, you know? You have to rest and go to the hospital, maybe do a few surgeries, you know? But that's essentially what they were trying to do, you know? They closed it off for several months, and they were only like pretty much everything in the beach was completely destroyed, especially the plants, right? And the fish were no longer there. Like the coral reefs were gone. There were no more sharks and like that kind of thing, you know. Like it's crazy, man. Like the plants that covered it, the trees, everything was gone. Everything was decimated, and it was kind of like Chernobyl practically, you know. So at some point, also in 2018, it was reported that some black-tip reef sharks were seen swimming along. You know, they were seen close to the beach in Maya Bay, which is kind of like a sign that they thought, you know, a positive sign that, you know, slowly and gradually marine life was returning to the waters, right? Because now there were no more humans around. So because of the tourism ban, the ecosystem was very slowly becoming normal again, right? That's what they thought, and it's actually really nice, you know. So trying to reintroduce, like clean up all of the crap, the trash, you know, bringing in some new sand, for example, and replanting some stuff, you know, some plants, some trees, you know, getting a lot of the pollution out of the water, letting it heal, maybe trying to restore a few coral reefs here and there, right? I don't know, they could have tried a lot of different things, right? And by February of 2019, it was actually announced that over 15,000 corals from local species were now propagating in the bay. So it was slowly starting to return back to form, you know, and, you know, the system of rehabilitation was actually very organic, and there were no artificial or man-made materials, you know, so everything that they reintroduced was organic and natural, nothing that was man-made. So that's essentially a way for you to allow nature to heal itself more properly, you know. And that was actually, up until that point, the largest coral rehabilitation project in the world that only uses natural means, and it actually worked out really well. And there was, of course, the period where it had to stop because of the COVID, the quarantine and everything, you know, the pandemic, but the sharks were breeding there again, you know. Slowly there was some fish that were swimming around in the area once more. So, you know, predator, prey, the food chain, everything was going back to normal, right? Now, here's the thing. 4 years later, after it was closed off, you know, in 2022, the bay was reopened to tourists, you know, so you can actually go and visit it today, but under very strict protocols, you know, no boats, no swimming, and no more than 1 hour of visitation per person, right? So, and there's a limited number of visitors at a time. And so right now, it seems like there's hope, you know, there is hope. It's back, okay? Let me take a breather here and show you guys something else. Maybe the beach now, or maybe a little documentary clip, I don't really know.
Until recently, 3,500 people visited the beach every day. In those crowds, it felt a lot less like heaven, so the authorities shut it down.
Percentage of living coral before we close it is only 8%. So you can see that it's been a very serious condition.
And that's essentially it, guys. You know, that's pretty much it. I just wanted to cover that topic there with a nice little positive spin at the end here, you know, where the island was actually reopened and we can actually go there today and visit, right? It would be nice to go there at some point. I might visit it someday. It's in my list of, it's on my bucket list, right? Places to go before I die eventually. If you ever happen to be around the area, you know, if you're over there in Thailand, you know, in the Krabi province, and you happen to be boating near the Strait of Malacca, you know, you might as well go ahead and visit, you know, but be freaking careful, okay? For the love of God, be careful. Let's not pollute the environment again. Let's not allow it to happen, right? And let's just be careful with nature, okay, to preserve these kinds of places, right? There are places that are even more polluted than this, you know, but it was still very sad, and I'm happy that the restoration efforts were essentially very successful largely, right? So of course it might not look exactly the same as it was before, but it's still a far cry from, you know, what it was during the over-tourism period. And that's essentially it, guys. Now I'm gonna leave the coordinates to the island right here so you can guys visit. No, I'm kidding, I'm not gonna do that. Now, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. You know, it feels good to come back and do these kind of educational vlogs where I teach you something new and I also learn myself, you know. I always enjoyed the research and recording, editing process of these kinds of videos. You know, it's really cool. So if you guys happen to enjoy this video, if you learned something new, please go ahead and give it a like, and also subscribe to my channel because I release videos every single week. And while you're at it, hit the notification bell too so you can know exactly what time I upload it. It's all good. Maybe feel free to drop a comment or two. Let's have a little debate. Subscribe to my other channels, you know. You've got Chazzy Plus, you know, for extra content, ChazzyCast for podcast, ChazzyCast BR for podcast in Portuguese, and it's all good. It's one huge symbiote, like the film, the Theorist channels, right, with Matt Pat. So that's it, guys. This is Chazzy, signing out for now, and as always, I will see you guys in the next video. Roll the outro screen, the non-polluted outro screen.